So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome back here about BSN Network. Karaoke back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, December 9th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Wednesday, December 9th. Coming off of the final game of Week 13 yesterday. Ravens dominate the Dallas Cowboys, especially dominate them on the run. In the run game, they just absolutely dominated them. A big win for the Ravens to get back on track this season. Obviously, they were struggling, hitting a little bit of a hump. For them to get back on track was really huge for the Baltimore Ravens. They win. And as for the Cowboys, they fall yet another game. The Dallas Cowboys yet fail once again to get the job done. Cowboys now move to 3-9 in a season. And as crazy as it sounds, even though they still have a shot because they're in the NFC East. I mean, it's a crazy, outrageous, very unlikely shot, but they still have a shot. But even the shot to win the NFC East is just so slim at this point. I mean, it really is. This is a Cowboys team that, is really, since Dak left, they were 2-2 when he left. Since Dak left, they are 1-7 since Dak left. So if that doesn't say, enough, 2, 3, 4, 6. So they're 1-6 since Dak left. Because they were 2-2 with Dak, or no. Yeah, no, they were 2-3 with Dak. So since Dak left, they're 1-6. So it's crazy. Since he has left, this team has completely went downhill. It is really crazy, and the Cowboys just continue to struggle for the rest of they just continue to struggle. So we'll get into that. But these are the topics today. Yesterday was a couple of college basketball games on. I'll tell you that for sure. There was some really good college basketball games on. We'll talk about those. But these are the topics for today. We got the Ravens versus Cowboys, then fantasy football. I will give you all the fantasy news and notes you need to know for fantasy football playoffs. This week is starting playoffs, so a big week for fantasy, big week all around for fantasy if you're in the playoffs, and if you're not, then big week, and if you're not, then you're still trying to play for pride and get, I guess I'm sure some of you don't want to be considered to be last place in your league. So if you find a way to not do that, that's obviously good. But if you're like me, both leagues I did clinch a playoff spot. Both leagues I am the 4 seed. So that's exciting. So hopefully I stick with the 4 seed and hopefully I get in. So that's obviously the goal. Hopefully I stick as the 4. Hopefully I go right in and win the championship in both leagues. I'm feeling more confident in one league than I do in the other league. But obviously we'll talk about it and get into it. Then we got some Mets news. James McCann is likely to sign about a 4-year deal with the New York Mets. He is a catcher from the White Sox, a very solid catcher. You're not gonna pay him a ton of money, but definitely he's a good catcher. He's not one of those big name guys, but he's a quality catcher for you. If they sign him, that would be huge. That would be a good move for the Mets if they sign him. Instead of going out on these JT Realmutos and guys like that, it'd be a good move for them. I'll tell you why. Then we got some George Springer news as well from the Mets. And I'm also going to kind of go talk a little bit about how all these moves that the Mets are making are going to hurt the Yankees. The Mets have already been in contact with George Springer. They are trying to, agree on a deal. And James McCann, they are closing in on a deal, which I'm pretty sure means kind of like finalizing, kind of just, putting the finishing touches on a deal to bring James McCann over to the New York Mets. We'll talk about it. As much as I hate talking about the Mets doing a good thing, the Mets are doing good things right now for their organization. As much as I hate to say that about the Mets because I can't stand them, gotta say it, gotta do it. We'll talk about that. Then we got college basketball and fantasy basketball. We'll talk about college basketball, and then we're going to talk about fantasy basketball. Yesterday, I did my draft. Wasn't really planned. We just figured out everyone in my league could do it, so we did it before the Thursday night game. Everyone could do it. I was like, all right, let's do it. Because kind of, I like to get the drafts done with, just boom, boom, do it. It takes 20 minutes, get it done with, and then you know what your team is, and then you could go from there. So we did it last night. I'll talk about my team. Not going to go crazy in depth. I'll definitely go more in depth as the season begins. I'll do the same thing that I do with fantasy football. I will tell you who you should start, who you should sit. I'll give you my lineup, who you should sit, who you should start. I'll tell you my lineup. That kind of stuff. So that's all that good stuff. So we'll talk about that. And fantasy basketball is going to be a little different because I'm going to be talking about it every single day pretty much. So my last topic is going to be packed. It's going to be a lot of NBA. It's going to be a lot of fantasy basketball. It's going to be that kind of stuff. And then once fantasy football ends, then we're going to be full on fantasy basketball. But yeah, so fantasy basketball. I know everyone always says this. I know everyone says, I like my team. I love my team. I think my team's good. I'm not going to sit here and completely say that. I'm going to just sit here and tell you who I think. I have my core players. I have about 5 guys that I am truly confident in that are going to get me quality points. And in the rest of the team, it's not that I'm not confident, but that's the rest of the team that could very well move. For example, I have Valanciunas on my team. I cannot guarantee that he's going to be on my team by the end of the season. Some of these other guys, though, like Anthony Davis is on my team, for example, I can probably almost guarantee as long as he doesn't get injured, he's going to be stuck on my team for the whole season because I'm not going to trade him, especially if he's doing good. So we'll talk about all that stuff coming up. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens not only beat the Dallas Cowboys, but they demolished the Dallas Cowboys and especially demolished the Dallas Cowboys on the run game. So the Baltimore Ravens won 34-17, which moves my record to they won 34-17, which moves my record to 132 and 68. So I'm 132 and 68 on the season for my game picks. I finished another week with 10 points, which is pretty good. I think that's good for me. I'm excited about it. It's another week of another solid week, get another 10-win week, keep it going. I just got to keep it rolling. Get these 10-win weeks. I mean, if I keep getting these 10, 11-win weeks, even a 9-win week, I'm just keep on rolling. We've got after that, we've only got, week 14? We've only got about 3 more weeks left of the season to go. Technically 4 more weeks because we still have this week, but, we've only got about 4 more weeks to go. So, we're still trying to get to that 150 mark would be amazing. 200, I think, is out of the equation, but still 150, if we can get halfway to 200, that would be very good. So we just got to keep it rolling. So another good week for my game picks, and then we'll see what happens on the Thursday night game tomorrow to start off week 14. So yet another Tuesday night game. But yesterday's game was just a dominant performance by the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they just came out and I mean, they gave it to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, you go into halftime and it wasn't it wasn't outrageous. I mean, they were down 17-10 to Dallas Cowboys at halftime. One key yesterday for the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't want to be that guy that's going to be the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh, if we would have made this, we could have did this, we should have did this. I'm not going to be that guy and sit here and tell you that. But at the same time, I am going to be the guy. I'm not going to be in that matter, but I am going to say if, I know I'm not a big fan of when sports fans are the big if factor. They always bring in the if part of it. Oh, if this guy does this and if this guy does this, then we win this game. Well, no, that's not the case. But I am going to be kind of that person right now. It might annoy you, but I am going to be that person. Let's just say Greg Zuerlein, the Dallas Cowboys kicker, makes those 3 field goals that he misses. Let's just say that penalty, there's not a penalty, then he misses. He obviously made it. There was a penalty. Then they kicked it again. He shanks it. Let's say Greg Zuerlein. Now, I'm not trying to complain I'm not trying to complain here. But let's say Greg Zuerlein kicks those 3 field goals. He makes them all. That's 9 extra points. So that's a 34-26 ball game. Let's say the touchdown throw, let's just say the throw by Andy Dalton to end out the half is caught by CeeDee Lamb. That went right through his hands. Let's just say that is caught by CeeDee Lamb. You have yourself in a tie football game, more than likely going for 2. So, what I'm trying to say here and bring this up is if Greg Zuerlein hits those 3 field goals and CeeDee Lamb catches that ball, the Cowboys win this game. So I don't want to say that the Cowboys they did get beat hard. I mean, they lost 34-17. They lost 34-17. So you can't sit here and say, oh, they played well, they almost won. They lost by 17. They doubled their score. They lost by 2 times. They lost 34-17. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the if, the shoulda, if we could have did this, we would have that, this would have happened. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. But what I am going to tell you is the main thing that hurt the Cowboys this game was mistakes and bad run defense. That's what hurt the Dallas Cowboys. Andy Dalton, he didn't play that bad. He really didn't. He went out there, he did his thing, went 31-48, 284 yards, or 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. He didn't play that bad. I think we can all agree on that. He got sacked once, rating of 85.9. Andy Dalton, for a guy his age, for a guy that's probably nearing the end of his career, went out there, gave you a quality performance. You know, guys around him didn't really help. You know, a couple bad plays by CeeDee Lamb, obviously the missed kicks and stuff, right? But if you're gonna sit here and tell me that, if you're gonna sit here and tell me this all lies, I mean, the Cowboys, the mistakes really hurt them this game because Andy Dalton did not play that bad. And as a matter of fact, I didn't think Ezekiel Elliott either played that bad. He had 77 yards, and he had 4 catches for 18 yards. He had 9 fantasy points. Hindsight 2020, I should have started him, but I didn't. But really, Ezekiel Elliott, too, he did not have a bad game either. He had 4 yards. He was averaging 4 yards a run. He did not have a bad game either. He did get stuffed at the goal line, but all in all, I did not think the Cowboys, few players on the Cowboys, mistakes hurt the Cowboys in this game, and their run defense hurt the Cowboys. What kind of mistakes? The Greg Zuerlein 3 missed field goals. Those kind of mistakes. What other kind of mistakes? The CeeDee Lamb right through his hands drop touchdown. You cannot possibly be doing. I don't care that it was a Hail Mary. The fact is he was up above from everyone. He jumped up. He saw it, and it went right through his hands. Yes, it was a Hail Mary, but when you have a ball that's not even, no one was trying to deflect it away from him either. He was on top of everyone. He was completely ahead of everyone. He jumped up, and he was ahead of everyone. For him not to haul in that ball, that is a big mistake. And you also don't realize he hauls in that ball. That's a big momentum shift going into the half. Those 2 big mistakes by Greg Zuerlein. Well, Greg Zuerlein made 3 mistakes. And then the mistakes, the penalties can count as mistakes. The penalties that then resulted in Greg Zuerlein missing the field goal. And then the drop ball by CeeDee Lamb. And then the run defense. Those were the problems for the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys got crushed on the run game. And props to the Baltimore Ravens. They went out there and they did what they do best. That is pound the football. Pound the football. That's all they do. Is just straight up pound, 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 pound. Keep pounding the ball until the other team stops you. And the Dallas Cowboys could not stop the run game yesterday. Gus Edwards had 101 yards. Lamar Jackson had 94 yards. J.K. Dobbins had 71 yards. And Mark Ingram 28 yards. So the run game for the Baltimore Ravens once again carries them to the win. And just the defense once again for the Dallas Cowboys hurts them again. Greg Zuerlein makes those 3 kicks. It's a completely different ball game. But like I said, I know a lot of people can always, and people always do this when it comes down to, people always do this when it can, and I can sometimes do this myself, but people can always be critical. When you lose a game, everyone could always say, oh, it's on the quarterback. Oh, it's this guy's fault. Oh, it's this guy's fault. I don't think this is on Andy Dalton in this situation. Now, sure. Do I very, 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 very well think that, if Dak Prescott was playing, maybe. But everyone always says, oh, it's always on the quarterback because that's your lead guy. But I don't think this was on Andy Dalton. I don't really think this was completely on the offense. This was on the defense. This is the Cowboys. The top 2 rushing games this season were by the Ravens and the Browns. Rushing totals this season. The Ravens yesterday had 290-something yards, and the Browns against the Cowboys at 303. Both those teams played against the Cowboys. That is how bad the Cowboys' defense is. That is how bad the defense is. That is how bad the defense is of the Dallas Cowboys. And the defense of the Dallas Cowboys needs change, needs a makeover. You know that top 5 pick that the Cowboys have? They've got to take a linebacker. They've got to take some sort of defender if they want any shot within the next couple of seasons of being back to America's team where they had 12 primetime games a year. That's what the Cowboys got to do. So it's going to be interesting. It really is. And I'll tell you what, for the Cowboys, this is a team that just a couple years ago was America's team. 12 of their 16 games were on prime time. They are no longer America's team. They are a failing football team right now, and they need to get it fixed quickly because you know how much media talk is around this football team, not even just in the NFL, but throughout the sports. And for this team to be sitting at 3-9 with the defense they have and overall the team they have, they need help quickly. They really do. And as for the Ravens went out there and took care of business, right? They did. They got the job done. They did what they needed to do. They pounded the football. They really, 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 really exposed the Cowboys' defense weaknesses, right? They used the Cowboys' defense weaknesses to their advantage. And I've always said this all the time. If you want to be a good football team, you got to use that other team's weaknesses to your advantage. They used that Cowboys rushing game. They used that weakness to their advantage. And guess what? They rushed for a ton of yards. They had a huge, huge, huge day, rushing-wise. So it was unreal. It was just a huge day rushing-wise. As a matter of fact, I'm going to calculate it. So 101 plus 94 plus 71 plus 28 gets you to 294 rushing yards. So they had 294 rushing yards yesterday. Wait, hold on a second. 101 plus. Yeah, 294 rushing yards yesterday. So, that's really insane. 294 rushing yards yesterday for the Baltimore Ravens. And I've said this. The Ravens, I don't think, are that good of a football team. They're 7-5. I understand Lamar Jackson, Harbaugh, Hollywood Brown, Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, a lot of those big-name guys, they've struggled this year at times. The Ravens have really, really struggled this year at times. And yesterday was a must-win game for them. And not just a must-win game, but one of those games you got to sit there and say, we need to win this game, but we not only need to win this game, we gotta win it pretty big. We can't come out here and, be slow out of the start, look like we don't want to be here, and stuff like that. We can't do that. We got to go out and win the game. So that was ultimately the goal, and they did. And passing yesterday, only 107 yards through the air and 294 on the ground. And like I said, that's what this team does best. And it should be even more embarrassing for the Cowboys because teams have been able to stop. Teams have been able to stop this season, especially stop this Ravens rushing attack this running attack because this is a team that runs almost the same thing every play. So defenses started to jump on that, but the Cowboys' defense is horrendous. They cannot jump on. They don't jump on that. So the Ravens took care of business yesterday and took care of business big. Some of the stats yesterday: Lamar Jackson went 12 of 17, 107 yards. Average was 8.9. 2 touchdowns, an interception, a rating at 101.8. Big game for him. Gus Edwards has 7 carries for 101 yards, 14.4 was his average. Lamar Jackson had 13 carries for 94 and a touchdown. Dobbins had 11 for 71 and a touchdown. 7.2 and 6.5 were their averages. Marquise Brown had 5 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. Boykin had 1 catch for a touchdown. 1 catch, 38 yards for a touchdown. So they scored 4 touchdowns yesterday, and obviously 4 of those were, So obviously they scored a good amount of touchdowns yesterday. So obviously that was big for them. Big. So they got back on track. That's big for them. You always, it's good to get back on track and good to, get going. So we shall see what comes next for this Ravens team. And as for the Cowboys, they went 31 to 4. Andy Dalton went 31 to 48, 285 yards, 9.2 his average, 2 touchdowns, interception, and a sack, and a rating of 85.9. Elliott 18 carries, 77 yards, 4.3 was his average. Gallup had 7 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. Lamb had 6 catches for 46 yards, 7.7 was average, 12.3 was Gallup's average. Amari Cooper had 5 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. So definitely things are getting interesting there. And the Ravens win yesterday, so let's see. They got the Browns, Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. So their schedule favors them. You got the Jaguars, which is a win, so that would put you at 8-5. The Browns this upcoming week, I would venture to say, let's just say you lose there. So that's 7-6. Jaguars, Giants, and Bengals, you all win. So you 10-6, you maybe 10-6, because the rest of your schedule is pretty easy. And I know people are talking all about the Giants. I don't know. The Giants, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Giants. But I'll tell you what. For this was a big win for them to erase the 3-game win streak or 3-game losing streak, and for a team to what they had to go through the past couple of weeks with the whole COVID situation, for them to come out and get the win like they did was good. So, and they've definitely got a favorable schedule remaining outside of the Browns game. So, this is a team that's got to capitalize. Right? Yesterday they capitalized on the easy game they had. They got to capitalize on some of these easier games they have left. And as for the Cowboys, if they want any sort of miracle shot to even somehow, some way get back in the NFC East, I would imagine they've got to win out. I've got to imagine they've got to win out, right? You got the Bengals, which is actually probably winnable. So that puts you at 4-8, 4-9. Niners, I actually don't think you beat the Niners. Then the Eagles, you probably don't beat. You might beat the Eagles, but even then, I don't think you will. I think they finish 4-12 probably, because in the Giants, I don't know if you'll beat the Giants. I might have you at Bengals, but even then, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens. It really is. It's crazy how one quarterback, one player can really hurt the trajectory of a season when he gets injured. It really is crazy. I mean, it really is. I mean, this was a team that was 2-3. Their offense was booming, right? They were one of the top offenses in the league. Boom, Dak goes down, and they're 1-6 since. And then and they're one. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But it really is. So Jaguars or the Ravens get a good win. So they move on to 7-5, and like I said, they got to beat these winnable games coming up. They got to win them. So coming up next, we got fantasy football. Oh, well, coming up, same topic, but like I said, coming up, we're gonna talk about fantasy football now. I'm just gonna load it up here. So coming up next, fantasy football. Okay, so alrighty, let's see. So let's get fantasy up. Alrighty. Alrighty, so here we go. So, so I wanted to spend a little bit more time here. Okay, so, oh, wow, okay, alright. I just got a ton of questionables that popped up on my screen. Okay, so then I'll put in Kenyon Drake there. Boom. Kenyon Drake. Or do I... Yeah, I'll put in Kenyon Drake for the moment. So, okay, so right now, this is what I'm rolling with for this week of fantasy football. I got Deshaun Watson, Kenyon Drake, James Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, A.J. Brown, Rams defense, and Daniel Carlson. And then my bench is Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Godwin, Raheem Mostert, Ravens defense, and David Johnson. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what the heck are you doing benching Antonio Gibson? Well, he is doubtful. Gibson is unlikely to play Sunday against the 49ers after being diagnosed with turf toe, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reports. So turf toe, as funny as it may sound, and I actually had this last season with Devontae Adams, turf toe, I'm not even kidding, have had players. Last year, Devontae Adams was out for a good 3 to 4 weeks, I think, with turf toe. I know it was like 3 weeks. I know at least it was like 3 weeks with turf toe. They never put him on IR, I think, but definitely. They needed, it was crazy. They needed, it was really, really, really crazy. He was out like 3 weeks with turf toe. So, he getting turf toe on Monday to come back on Sunday and play is a little crazy. To come back on a Sunday and play is a little crazy. So these are this is what the questionables are. I got James Robinson, he's questionable. Jaguars head coach Doug Marrone said Robinson would be a limited participant in Wednesday's practice, but the running back is expected to full go ahead of Sunday's game against the Titans. John Reed of the Florida Times-Union reports. So, like I said, it's Wednesday. You got some time. You don't have to worry about it, right? It would be different if this was a Friday. It would be still questionable. Tyreek Hill too. Tyreek Hill. There's no news on him on why he's questionable. But I'm assuming it's probably something around the same thing as Robinson, some knee, some ankle or some knee injury or something simple where not even knee injury, just something not to really worry about. Should be ready for next game. Helaire illness. He was active, but he did not play. He did not register a snap when he was playing. And as for Godwin, too, he is questionable. Godwin finger wasn't spotted at practice Wednesday. Greg Allman of The Athletic reports. So you got, like I said, you got some time there. I have no pending moves in this league. I'm still deciding on what I want to do with the defense. I have Rams in so far. I mean, they've had some couple big weeks back-to-back against some really good offenses, too. So I'm putting in the Rams. But that's pretty much my lineup. I love my matchups against Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry. I mean, they're going up against a bad Atlanta defense. I like my matchups there, so I'm definitely doing that. I like A.J. Brown against Jacksonville. I really do. Deshaun Watson, I'm going to start him no matter what. He's had a good year. Kenyon Drake against the Giants, I just had to put him in now, but I believe that he's the right move. He's had, he's not a big yards guy, but he's going to get touchdowns for you. He's at 11, 20, and 10 in the past couple of weeks, so he's definitely had some good games. So I got to continue. I think I just got to continue to play him and continue to keep him in. And James Robinson too. I mean, he's had a fabulous season, so I got to keep him in as well. And that's the deal. I come in as the 4 seed. I'm playing the 1 seed, and that's kind of your first round stuff right there. So obviously round 1, last 2 rounds, but at the moment I'm projected to win by 1. But we still got to see what moves my opponent makes. But I know a lot of people would probably recommend benching Hunter Henry this week just because, just benching him would probably recommend it because he's been struggling and it's the playoffs and, playoff fantasy is way different than regular season fantasy. You can't deal with losing. Meaning if you lose during the regular season, you're like, okay, it's fine. Playoffs, it's a whole nother level. If you lose, you could be done. So it's going to be interesting. But like I said, I always say this. I just gotta, put who's ever best out there, right? I gotta see who's ever the best is. I'm not gonna change much because it's a playoffs. As much as it runs through your mind of trying to change a lot, sitting here and saying, oh, I should change this guy and put in this guy. Let me try something new for the playoffs. No. Obviously, this team got you to the playoffs, so stick with this team, This team got me to a pretty solid 7-6 record, so I'm going to probably more than likely stick with this team, if you follow what I'm saying. So I definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, I'm in the 4 seed, so I got in, and that's all that matters. I got in, and just hopefully I can pull out a victory. and win it all. That's my goal. Haven't won it all in any fantasy. Last year I won it all in my fantasy basketball league. But other than that, I have not won it all in any of my fantasy football leagues. I came in second 2 years ago. I lost by 4 points in the championship game. So that obviously that one hurts. But still, last season I finished in third in my one league, and I struggled in my other league. Last year. I think I went 5-8, and in my one league I finished third. I think I went 7-7, something like that. I think somewhere around there. So last year wasn't as successful. The year before that, I only had one league. I only did one league. I just started out my other league last year, so the year before that I only had one league. That was the year I think I came in second. I lost by 4 points. I remember Alvin Kamara got a concussion early in the first quarter. He was my only remaining player left, and the rest is not good. He ended up getting a concussion. Forget about that rest of that season. He doesn't get a concussion. He gets 5 points. I win. So, yeah. So, that's obviously one of those things. But as for my other league as well, I've got no questionables other than DJ Moore. He looks like he's out, but they're going to see what happens with him. But, yeah, this is my lineup. I got Aaron Rodgers, Chris Carson, Austin Eckler, Devontae Adams, Robert Woods, Hunter Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Packers defense, Daniel Carlson. My bench is Juju Smith-Schuster, DJ Moore, David Johnson, Allen Robinson, Todd Gurley, Rob Gronkowski, and Ronald Jones. I made a roster move a little bit ago. I dropped Matt Ryan. Just decided, it's the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers have been rolling with me. No, I'm going to free up this roster. That was my plan like 2-3 weeks ago. I didn't really say anything about it, but it was kind of just one of those things. I was like, you know what? It's the playoffs. Matt Ryan's been on my bench for a while now. I'm going to free up a spot, put back David Johnson off of IR and put him in there. So definitely wanted to do that. I love my matchups in this league as well. I've got Rodgers and Adams against a Detroit defense that stinks. Chris Carson against the Jets, who we all know how bad the Jets are. Austin Eckler against a bad Atlanta defense. Robert Woods against a iffy New England defense. That's probably an interesting matchup. That's about balanced. Hunter Henry against a bad Atlanta defense. Ezekiel Elliott against a bad Cincinnati defense. Packers defense against a bad Detroit offense. And my kicker is my kicker, so it is what it is. But for this to be my playoff, Rodgers is projected 30 points. It's crazy. It really is. There's no need for, it really is. I'm hoping that this team, this is by far, I think, the best my team has looked all season long, and of course it's the start of the playoffs, so hopefully I do this. But I'm projected to lose by 2 at the moment. My opponent's made no roster moves, I don't think yet. But actually, he has. Yes, my opponent has actually. But it's gonna be really interesting. Luckily, it's 2 weeks though. It's 2 weeks. I'm still debating on what I'm gonna do with Elliott. I know I'm still debating. I know I benched him. He had 9 points. So did David Johnson. David Johnson is about an automatic 9 points. He gets you like 9 to 10 points every week. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But I'm still deciding there. Robert Woods, I think, is a lock. And my one roster, my pending move is I'm dropping the Packers defense, picking up the Saints. Packers, I know I said I have that matchup against Detroit, but the Saints are playing the Eagles with a backup quarterback with Jalen Hurts. Don't know what's going to happen there. I'm picking up the Saints. I think they'll have a big game. So, anyway, I think it's going to be, I'm hopefully, I hope that everything pans out correctly. Yeah, Austin Eckler last week struggled, but the whole entire Chargers team struggled. So I'm hoping, if they can just get back on the right track and win a game, then he would have a good game as well. I'm hoping, but that's kind of the deal with fantasy football. It's it. Oh, DJ Moore, he was out last week. Coach Matt Rule said Monday that Moore, who was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list, is trending in the right direction in terms of rehabbing his ankle. Steve Reed of the Associated Press reports. So he injured his ankle on one of the last plays of 2 weeks ago's game, of a week ago game. They obviously had a bye week. I'm not going to start him even if he does play. I'm not just not one of those guys to put in my starting lineup. In a way, if you think about it, the regular season is one of those times where, the regular season is one of those times where you think about, like, if you follow what I'm saying, like regular season is one of those things where it's kind of like a time period for like your players. Like it's kind of like a what's it called? It's one of those I'm losing it here. Like the regular season's kind of like a performance, like an audition for your players, right? If you have a good regular season, you're going to be in on your playoff roster. If you have a bad regular season, you're not. DJ Moore has not had the most fabulous regular season. He has had 9 points per game. He's not had the most fabulous regular season. You know, he's had a couple really, really good games, but he's not had that good of a regular season. So for me to sit here and say that, he's not, for me to sit here and say to start him would not be ideal. But I think, even Juju, he's on my bench too. He's struggled this year too. I would definitely not be picking him up in the future. But yeah, that was my fantasy team. So hopefully everything works out good, and hopefully I win the championship in both leagues. Now I move on to some New York Mets moves. Okay, so let's get this up here. All right, let's see. Okay, so let's go on to the Mets. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, the Mets have made some moves. James McCann. Okay, coming up next, we're going to talk about the Mets. Okay, so the Mets have made some moves. So the Mets have made some moves with James McCann. So this was from Ken Rosenthal just about 2 hours ago. This came out. Mets getting close with free agent catcher James McCann. Sources tell The Athletic. Deal is expected to be about 4 years. So Mets catcher James McCann closing on a 4-year contract per report. So closing in usually means it's kind of just the logistic work at this point. It's kind of just one of those things where it's just, you got your, it's just the logistic kind of stuff. It's just, it's just between him and his agent at this point in the Mets, just talking about kind of the final little nooks and crannies of the contract, and then they'll get it done. Now, closing in, this was an hour ago, so it's kind of interesting that it's taking this long. Usually when people say they're closing in, about 10, 15 minutes later, you hear that they signed it, which is a little concerning, I would imagine, if you're a Mets fan hoping for James McCann, because it's taking a pretty long time. If it's closing in, it's kind of the point where you're just like, okay, it's closing and we pretty much get them. But there's been no new news since that. So I'm just going to take it as they're closing in. I'm going to take it as they're going to get him, because usually closing in means like they're on the final little details of the contract, and boom, there you go. You're whatever. You're a New York Met now. But what I will tell you is before I do get into the James McCann deal is I will personally say I think this, if I was a Mets fan, I would personally think this was a good move. And I have a couple reasons for this. First of all, here's my first reason, okay? The Mets are going to want to spend money, okay? James McCann is not going to be, he's not your big-name catcher. He's not your JT Realmuto type of big-name catcher, your Yadier Molina. Those are some of the biggest names in baseball. He's not one of those guys. He's James McCann. He's a smaller-name catcher. He's coming from a smaller market team he's coming from a small market team he's coming from a small market team in the Chicago White Sox. He's an all-star. He's about a 250 to 260 hitter. He's not a crazy power hitter. He's not he's gonna get you hits. He's not a crazy power hitter. Last year he batted 289 in 97 at bats. He had 15 RBIs, 20 runs scored, and 28 hits. He batted 289 last season. His All-Star campaign, he had 439 at bats, 62 runs, 120 hits, 60 RBIs, and 30 walks. He batted .273. That was his all-star season. He's a good defensive catcher. He's going to go out there. He's a good defensive catcher. He's not going to be a crazy power hitter like a lot of you people know, right? He's going to be a good player. If I was a Mets fan, I would like this. And I know this might sound crazy to some of you Mets fans because I'm sure a lot of people wanted Real Muto. I'm sure a lot of people wanted Yadier Molina. But here's the thing with the Mets and Steve Cohen. You have to be smart with your money. You can't just go out there. And that's what I feel like in a way this Mets team, when you get an owner that has a lot of money, whether that's James Cohen or not James Cohen, Steve Cohen. I mixed James McCann and Steve Cohen's name up. Whether that's Steve Cohen or any of these other rich owners out there, any of these other, big money owners. Now, you could say every owner has a lot of money, but you know what I'm talking about. Some owners have way more money than others, like Jerry Jones. He's a big guy. He has a lot of money. Is his team successful? Really, no, but that's besides the point. Right, when you get these big money owners, these owners that have, are above the rest, right? You might have, an owner that has a lot of money and an owner that has a good amount of money and has an owner about a good amount of money there as well. And you have an owner that's really up here, an owner that really has a very, very, very big amount of money. And that's James. I'm keep on getting James McCann and Steve Cohen's name mixed up. That's Steve Cohen, right? So, Steve Cohen is a very rich owner. He made this Mets team go from the Mets to a big market. Okay, this team's actually a pretty big market team. So when you have a lot of money, and I might sound like, oh well, everyone knows this already, but there's a lot of owners that do mess up. When you have a lot of money, you don't just want to go out there and spend it on names. Oh, Yadier Molina, he's a big name. Now let's give him a big contract. Well, does he fit your team? Is he good enough for getting $20-25 million a year? Right? What is the deal? Right? Don't just go out there and, Yadier Molina, he's a big name. Let's give him $60 million. Right? Oh, George Springer, he's a big name. Let's give him $70 million. Oh, Trevor Bauer, he's a big name. Let's make him the highest paid pitcher in all of the MLB. Right? You don't want to do that if you're Steve Cohen. So that's why I like this move. Because you're not going to spend a ginormous amount of money on James McCann. You're going to give him a 4-year deal. It's not going to be a crazy, crazy amount of money. It's going to be a 4-year deal. It's going to get the job done, and he'll be a quality catcher for you the rest of the way. That is how I see this move. So I know a lot of Mets fans might be disappointed because you're not getting Yadier Molina, you're not getting JT Realmuto, you're not getting one of those big catching guys who's on the market right now. You're not getting one of them. You are getting James McCann, who's a much smaller name catcher. But a lot of times, these small name catchers can be really, really solid. For example, the New York Yankees, their backup catcher, Austin Romine. He's not a household name. Now, for Yankees fans, everyone knows who he is. But now he's with the Tigers. When he used to play for the Yankees, not many people, when he used to play for the Yankees, he's still not and still to this day, he's not really that big of a name. But he's not that big of a name outside of the Yankees, right? He got the job done. He was a very good player. I'd much rather him over Sanchez. Right? So that's why you have to be wise with your money. If you're Steve Cohen, you can't just go out there and get Francisco Lindor, Trevor Bauer, right? JT Realmuto, right? And all these other guys. You can't just go. Now, sure, you can. But if those really guys don't fit your team and aren't good enough for your team, you feel like, then don't get them. That's why I like this deal that's why I think this was a good deal for the New York Mets, because you're getting a good pitcher, or not a good pitcher, sorry. You're getting a good catcher. You're getting a pretty solid hitter. You're not getting a guy that's going to be a home run or bust like Sanchez. You're going to get a guy that's going to hit the ball. He might hit your occasional home run, but he's going to make contact, right? He's not your best hitter in the world. He is a catcher, so catchers usually aren't the best hitters, but, he'll get the job done. He's not going to be batting .320 every year. He's not going to be batting .290. He'll probably be batting .250 to .270, which is about a catcher's average. If you all don't know, usually catchers are not usually the best hitters in the world, but that's just usually all how they are. That's just how catchers are. So I would not be nervous. Catchers are not usually always known for their hitting. Usually it's mainly their defense. A lot of times if you look at it, it's their defense that gets them into the All-Star games. It's their defense that gets them, gets them known, right? Yadier Molina is known for his defense. JT Realmuto is known for his defense. Salvador Perez, really good defender, right? Buster Posey, really good defender. You look at these guys' averages, they aren't amazing because they're not really, catchers is it's a stereotype about catchers usually. Catchers are usually not your big power hitters. They usually are lower average. They're guys that will get you hits, but they're not a guy that's going to come up in the bases loaded always and hit a grand slam. That's just how it is. That's just how the catcher position is. DH, sure, they'll do that. First base, sure, they'll do that. Those are your power hitters, if you know what I'm saying. Everyone knows that. It's a stereotype. Every catcher's like that. Even ask the catchers. I bet you they'll agree. People realize that. Mets fans will realize that. Everyone will realize that. But that's a big deal. I mean, I think this is a good move. I really do think this is a good move for the New York Mets. And like I said, I think Steve Cohen's not going to go out there and overpay on names. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go out there and get names. You want to go out there and get skill. James McCann might not be your household name, but he's going to give you skill. Get skill. And this is also, you're starting off free agency with, you're starting off, this real offseason with, you're starting off this, you're really starting this off with, you're starting off this with a smaller move, but these moves will progressively get bigger and bigger and bigger and better. So, if you just gotta be patient if you're a Mets fan. Because I bet you it will help you in the long run. It will help you in the long run, I promise. And also, and this is another thing too. JT Realmuto has said many times that he doesn't really want to play in New York for a New York team. He said, unless if you're giving me a ton of money. So that's a smart thing to do if you're a GM, if you're an owner of a New York baseball team, either the Mets or the Yankees. There's only two of them, right? That's the smart move if you're a Mets or a Yankees, not to go out and get them. Now, sure, if you go out there and give them a ton of money, that's what he said, though. He said he doesn't really want to play in a big... He said he doesn't really want to play in New York, for a Yankees or the Mets. He says he doesn't really want to play for them, unless if they're going to give him a good amount of money. You want to get a guy that's going to be dedicated to your team. You're not going to want a guy that doesn't want to be there, but he's only there just because of the money. You've seen how those guys turn out. You see how the Manny Machados have turned out, where you give them a ton of money and they do not work out because they don't really want to play for that team, but they're there anyway. You've seen how that works. We've all seen it in baseball before. We've all seen it. So get a guy that's going to be dedicated to a team and start off slow. And believe me, Mets fans, Steve Cohen's going to be good. I really do think he will be good. And this is coming from a Yankees fan, too. And I'm also very frustrated at the Yankees because the Yankees have been very quiet. And I think that's concerning because the MLB is not going to wait for the New York Yankees. They're not going to wait and say, oh, wait. The New York Yankees need you to... Hold on, wait. Don't wait. New York Yankees are still trying to get some of these players. Don't do that. Don't close it. MLB is not going to wait for the Yankees. That's why I'm frustrated. These other teams are getting to work. You saw Lance Lynn to the White Sox yesterday. Now you're seeing more than likely McCann to the Mets. The Mets have already talked to Springer many times. They're already in negotiations with him. Yankees, I just hear crickets. That's all I hear from the Yankees. I just hear crickets. That's all I hear. So this is also kind of frustration because I think the MLB is just going to take over. I mean, you're going to see all these other teams just get all these big players, and the Yankees are going to be stuck with these mediocre players. We picked up this guy. I really think he's going to be good. Gone in 1 year. What about the J.A. Happ move? How does that work for the New York Yankees? So let's read this quick article about James McCann here. After weeks of courting via the MLB rumor mill, a deal was reported close to getting finished between the Mets and free agent catcher James McCann. McCann is nearing a 4-year deal with New York, reports Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic. McCann, 30, hit 289, 360, 536, with a 144 OPS with 7 homers and 15 RBIs in 31 games last season for the White Sox. He was an all-star in 2018 after a monster offensive first half, 316 batting average, but tailed off after the break past the bat. McCann has a great value break past the bat. McCann has a great value behind the plate. McCann has great value behind the plate, known as an excellent framer. He sits in the 88th percentile per baseball 7. He also routinely throws out would-be base stealers at a higher rate than the league average at +5 defensive runs saved last season. McCann was tied for fourth among catchers in all of baseball. This plugs an obvious hole for the Mets as they were left with Thomas Nitto and Ali Sanchez, their major league catchers after the 2020 season, with Wilson Ramos hitting free agency. Additionally, they didn't have a catcher prospect close to the majors early in the offseason. Many thought top free agent catcher JT Realmuto would be a Mets target, but they seemed to rather quickly hone in on McCann, which I think is a very smart decision for the New York Mets. Don't expect the Mets to be even close to done this winter. With new owner Steve Cohen wanting to make an impact and having been spared from so-called biblical losses other owners suffered in 2020, they appear to have the means to spend a lot this offseason. They've connected in rumors to free agents, center fielder, like I said, George Springer, and for example. Marcus Stroman decided to accept this qualifying offer, but this rotation could still stand to be upgraded. Reliever Trevor May signed with the Mets last week, but the bullpen could always use more help. And, of course, a huge name like Springer should always be considered. Surely the Mets continue to stay aggressive here in the offseason while a few others are. For now, though, they have their starting catcher in McCann. So he will be their starting catcher. And what did I say? I said he's a good defensive catcher. He might not be the best hitter. I mean, he can hit, but that might not be his strength, but he is going to get you. He's going to throw guys out. He's going to block balls. He's going to frame them, and he's ultimately going to help pitchers. So that's big for the Mets, and they're not spending a ton of money. And I said for George Springer, too. They're targeting him, too. They've already been in talks with him. Now I move on to college basketball. Yesterday was a couple games on. Illinois beat Duke 83-68. Rutgers won 79-69. Penn State upset Virginia Tech. Penn State won 75-55. Ohio State won 90-85. Iowa won 93-80. Tennessee won 56-47. Kansas won 73-72. That was a crazy game. Today's games are Wisconsin, Rhode Island. I give Wisconsin the win. Richmond, Northern Iowa, give Richmond the win. Texas Tech, Albany, and Christian, give Texas Tech the win. West Virginia, Robert Morris, give West Virginia the win. Florida State, Indiana, Florida State the win. Wisconsin, Louisville, that's postponed. Baylor, Stephen F. Austin, I give Baylor the win. Houston, Sam Houston State, I give Houston, that's postponed as well, actually. Texas State, I give Texas the win. And Virginia, Michigan State, I give Michigan State the win. That's my deal there. So, those are the games. So now let's look through my fantasy basketball team. I'm not going to spend too much time. I just wanted to read through it. So last night I did my draft for fantasy basketball, which was, I thought, pretty exciting, pretty good. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get the season rolling and excited to get going with this season. These were my players yesterday that I drafted. I took Trae Young, Bradley Beal. This is my team. Trae Young, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyrie Irving, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and LaMarcus Aldridge. And my bench is Yusuf Nurkic, Jeremiah Grant, and Victor Oladipo. My first pick was the fourth pick yesterday. I had the fourth pick, and I took Davis with that. So, I mean, he was probably the best guy available there, so I had to take him. So I took Davis. If I had to choose, prime, who are your prime players, these are probably them. Trae Young, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, and Pascal Siakam are probably my prime 5 players. Are probably my players that I can trust are going to be solid all year. Then if I had to choose maybe one runner-up would probably be Kyrie. That'd probably be the next. I love this. This one thing is a little interesting because I have 3 Raptors players, which could be a positive but could be a negative because when they're on an off day, then I need it. They're all 3 off. This was one of the things I was looking at was this. It was Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, and Fred VanVleet. One of them every night's gonna have at least a big game. Or 2 of them. So I thought that was big because if you have at least 2 of them who are gonna have big games, I feel like that's huge. Because, I feel like that is huge. I feel like that's huge because they're the 3 main guys on that team. At least one of them is going to go off. Maybe 2 of them. And if I have both of them on my team plus the other one, I feel like that's big. I mean, I literally almost have the entire Raptors starting five. You know, I mean, I just feel like that's big there. So, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you if I love or hate my team. If I had to choose, I do like my team, but I also want to see what my team brings to the table. So, I like it, though. I mean, I do. Hopefully this team gets the job done. Last year I won it all in my fantasy basketball league, so hopefully I do it again this season. That's obviously the goal. So that's kind of what I got there for that. But, yeah. So anyway, so that's what I got for the, that's what I pretty much got for the podcast today. Tomorrow we'll give you keys of the game for the Thursday night football game and in fantasy as well. That's the plan. Keys of the game for the Thursday night and stuff like that, and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much the goal. That's the plan to do tomorrow, is to talk about the Thursday night game and stuff like that. So that should be good. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.